It was such a horrific thing for us in the band at the time to have that for a hit because we got disrespected by everyone in the business. Anytime we met another artist, they laughed at us and thought we were a joke. And I know in my heart that would never have happened had it been a different song that we had had for a hit.
Something could happen on this show. You never can tell.
Hi, everybody. It's Pam from the Rock and Roll Show, and I'm here with my buddy, Joe Farina. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Pam. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Hope everybody out there is safe and healthy. Happy holidays to everybody out there.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And thank you all for joining us. Before we get to our very special guest tonight, just a few reminders. Make sure to check out dickbiondifilm.com to learn more about the great documentary that Pam is putting together for the famous DJ. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Right now, we're almost at 330 subscribers, so it's growing each and every day. So thank you, but be sure to subscribe. Also, check out our Facebook group and our Facebook page. Pam, everybody out there, we are at about 1,600 members of the Dick Biondi Film Facebook group.
That's a private group.
Phenomenal. And we're almost at 4,000 likes for the page. So
that's awesome.
Approaching some great numbers here. So thank you, everybody. All right. The 1910 Fruitgum Company exploded onto the 1960s music scene with smash hits like Simon Says, 1, 2, 3, Red Light, Indian Giver, and more. We are honored and thrilled to have original founding member of the 1910 Fruitgum Company joining us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Frank Jeckell. Frank, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hi, Frank.
Hello, Joe. Hello, Pam. Thank you very much for inviting me to spend some time with you tonight.
Well, we are excited to hear all about the band and how you got started. You know, I understand that you performed at the Arcada Theater. Our friend Ron Onesti owns the Arcada Theater, and I understand you know Ron.
Yes, we had a wonderful time there. It was a number of years ago now, but it was a fun experience. And frankly, on the way there, I didn't quite know where we were going because it seems to be a little bit in the middle of nowhere. But as far as 60s music and rock and roll, it's the center of the universe in the Midwest.
You have got that right. Can you tell us about your, growing up? You grew up in New Jersey, right? Can you talk about that?
My family is actually from Pennsylvania, and we moved to New Jersey when I was a toddler, actually even younger. I was 6 months old. And because my father didn't have any work in Pennsylvania, Northeast Pennsylvania was not to be found in those days. So he came to New Jersey to work in a General Motors assembly plant, and that's where we moved. But all my influences, as you point out, were certainly New Jersey based because that's where I grew up. But my musical influences came from my family, and they were huge fans of country and Western music in the 50s when I was a little boy. So there was always a guitar going, and my uncles and my aunts, several of them played and sang harmony, and that's what really grabbed me back in those days. Of course, as I got a little bit older, when I turned 10, this guy Elvis suddenly showed up, and he was pretty cool. I was a big fan, and so I count him as definitely as an influence in addition to country. Then later in the 60s, I became aware of doo-wop and music like that, and became very interested in that, and ended up really loving one song in particular, Little Star by the Elegants. And that was my all-time go-to favorite song until, of course, the Beatles came out. And I was very lucky to be able to become friends maybe 10 or so years ago with the fellow who wrote and sang Little Star, Vito Picone. I don't know if you know of him or anything about him. He's from Staten Island, New York. Wonderful guy, and I'm so proud to have been able to become his friend, and because he was such a huge influence on me. Back to influences, the Beatles. To this day, there has been nothing like them, never will be, and to me, they are the greatest rock and roll band ever. And they just did so many different things with music, changed so many ways, and made so many great songs that they will always be the epitome of music to me. Those are my influences.
Oh, those are great influences to have. And you being a guitarist, were there any, as you were growing up and getting into music, were there any specific guitar players that really caught your ear? My guess is George Harrison would be one of them. But were there anybody else as you were growing up that caught your ear and you were influenced by it?
I picked up guitar at the age of 14 in 1960. And at that time, I was still very much interested in country, and Johnny Cash was a big influence. So I sat down with 2 albums. I sat down with a Johnny Cash album, and I proceeded to teach myself and learn all the songs on there. And luckily for me, the Johnny Cash songs are not particularly hard to play. So that was an easy task for a young boy, and I learned them, and I learned them well. And the other album that was a big influence on me was Walk, Don't Run by the Ventures, because I was a big Ventures fan. So I learned all the songs off that on my electric guitar, and that's kind of the beginning of my guitar playing. Later in the early 60s, I became enamored with folk music just before the Beatles came out, and I was a huge Simon and Garfunkel fan. So I learned how to finger pick and learned how to play the Paul Simon style of music. So those are probably my biggest influences on guitar. Today, I love the work of Tommy Emmanuel. I don't know if you know of him. If you haven't, you should look into him and hear what he does. He is probably one of the most gifted and talented guitar players, to me anyway, of what he plays today out there. And he's just phenomenal. Plays an acoustic guitar and plays it amazingly. You couldn't believe what he does on acoustic.
That's great. That's great. And I mean, you're so lucky, Frank, when you were growing up to have, the Beatles and Johnny Cash and all of those influences around you. And I can just imagine, just soaking all that in and saying, you know what, maybe I could try to form a band. So tell us how the 1910 Fruitgum Company formed, and how did you come up with the name?
So we formed as a bunch of kids from Linden, New Jersey. We all went to the same high school. We knew each other from various garage bands that each of us had played in. I had a band in around 1965 called Jeckell and the Hydes. Gee, what a fun name, right? And our drummer left the band, and we hired on another drummer, and he brought a guitar player along with him. And the 5 of us then were the genesis, were the 1910 Fruitgum Company. That's myself. Pat Carvin was the new guitar player we brought in. Floyd Marcus was the drummer. With me in Jeckell and the Hydes was Steve Morkowitz on bass, and Mark Gutkowski on, he started actually playing a Sanovox accordion kind of a thing, and then he bought an organ. And he had the voice that the producers liked, so he ultimately became the lead singer for all the 1910 Fruitgum Company hits. That's
tremendous. And if you go to YouTube, there's a video clip of you guys performing Simon Says, and I'm guessing that was the original lineup, correct? That you just mentioned.
Yes. Well, depending upon which clip you look at, but if you look at the oldest one in black and white, yes, that was us. Where the people are in shadows or clapping hands in the background.
That's
Yeah,
it. You got it.
That's the original lineup. Now you asked about the name. There's a lot of stories floating around about the name. The earliest story was, if you looked at the Simon Says LP, the liner notes, there was a little paragraph in there that said it was Frank, that's me, who was searching in the attic looking for some retro clothing for the band, who found a gum wrapper in a jacket pocket, and he came up with the name. Sounds nice, right?
Right.
Not true. A little bit of PR.
Yeah.
At the time, the name was already in the hands of Jeff Katz and Jerry Kazanets, our managers, producers. So they gave us the name. But that's not where the name came from. They didn't invent it. Years after I left the band, after the first go-around in the early 70s, I came into possession of a slot machine from the 1940s. And on the slot machine, there's bars that come up when you win the jackpot. And if you look very closely on one of these bars, it said, Bell Fruitgum Company, copyright 1910. So I have to believe, although I don't have any definitive proof, that that's the source of the name, because the whole entire name was right there sitting on the slot machine. All someone had to do was pull it off and reorganize it, and they had the 1910 Fruitgum Company.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Because it's such a distinctive name. But that's what it was like in the 60s, though. You had a lot of bands with those really, really distinctive type of names.
I like to think of them as interesting names.
Interesting. There you go. Interesting names. and I remember I grew up in Chicago, and I have two older brothers, and I remember in the late 70s, early 80s, when they weren't around, of course, I would go through their record collection. And believe it or not, I came upon a record that had all these hits from, bubblegum type of hits. And one of them, of course, was the 1910 Fruitgum Company, Simon Says. So I've known about your music for a very long time, and happily so. And I was just wondering if you could tell our audience, some background information about Simon Says, because that was such a big hit for you. It sold more than 3 million copies, and my kids love it. When I play it, they love it. Can you tell us a little bit more about the history behind that very, very famous song?
I will. When Jeff Katz came to hear us in the summer of 1967 to evaluate whether he wanted to record us or not, we were playing a lot of covers, Motown, a lot of psychedelic stuff, a lot of Hendrix, a lot of Cream, Vanilla Fudge. And that's the kind of music we were writing. A couple of us were writers. The drummer, especially Floyd Marcus, was a prolific writer, wrote 1,000 songs probably. And we had actually recorded 4 of Floyd's songs, and that demo was what Jeff heard, which is why he came to hear us. So he already knew what we wanted to do, and he signed us, and we signed on with the expectation that we'd record our songs, and that's what we were going to do. So not long after we signed in October of 67, he called us in and he goes, I got this song. He said, I'm pretty sure it's a hit. He said, but I recorded it with and produced it with a band out of Philadelphia, and it's missing something. And I wondered if you guys would just take it and see if you could improve on it. So we said, okay. We hadn't heard it yet. Took it home. We had a rehearsal meeting. We played it. And we weren't pleased because it was not the kind of style of music that we wanted to play. It wasn't the kind of music we were writing, and it wasn't even a song that if we heard it on the radio, we would even want to cover. So we weren't pleased. So initial reaction from a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds, and I was the old man of the group, I was 21. Initial reaction was, tell them to stuff it. We're not doing this. So we had some more discussions, and we said, well, look, it's just one song. We don't want to get off on the wrong foot with the guy. Let's fix it up and give it back to him. And it's not going to do anything anyway. It's a stupid song. So we worked on the song, and it didn't sound any better than the demo. So I said, well, we have to change this up if it's going to be any better. So we came up with the idea of incorporating stealing, basically, some style issues from another record. And we chose Wooly Bully by Sam the Sham. And we said, let's take the bass part that goes boom, 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 boom. Let's steal that and put it in. And the keyboard part that goes that. If you think of Wooly Bully, that's there. And let's steal that. Let's put that in this song. So we did. And it did sound better. We took it back into Jeff, played it for him with the changes, and he went, that's it. Let's get in the studio and record it. So in early December, we started recording it. We finished it up. It was released by the end of December. And by March of 68, it was number 4 in the country and on the Billboard charts, Simon Says. So,
Wow.
not by any of our intention. It's just the way that it happened at the time. We did get one thing out of it, though. By agreeing to record it for him, he said we could have the flip side. So we put our song, Reflections from the Looking Glass, that we had written on the flip side. So if you ever haven't heard it, if you want to flip it over and listen to it, you'll hear the style of music that we wanted to play, or at least something like it, but never got to, except for the flip side of Simon Says.
Gosh, Simon Says was such a monster hit, but like you said, on the flip side, Reflections from the Looking Glass, that you were telling me that was truly the honest direction that the band wanted to go. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, you had a couple of versions of that song, and one of them, the first one, I believe, was banned or censored. Tell us about that.
Well, it didn't go so far as being out on the radio and getting banned or censored. It was never, ever released. When we played the song for Jeff Katz, he said, you can't have those words. You can't say this and you can't say that, because that suggests drugs and that has racial overtones. So sorry, we can't use this song. So we said, well, what if we launder it a little bit and come up with more acceptable lyrics? He goes, well, show me. So on the spot, actually, I came up with new words for the section that we needed to change, and he said, that's fine. So that was the version of the song, the censored, quasi-censored version of the song that you hear when you play the 45. If you go onto YouTube and look for Reflections in the Looking Glass, you'll find a version from about 15 years ago, a live version where I'm singing it. I don't sing it on the record. Mark sings it on the record. You'll find a live version with the real lyrics, the original real lyrics. So you'll have an opportunity to see what was so bad. And when you hear it, after all this discussion we're having here, you're going to laugh, because compared to what's been on the radio since, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing and silly. But Jeff was afraid. Jeff and Jerry were afraid that it would cause Simon Says to get banned, because they would ban one side and they wouldn't play the other side. It would kill the hit. So I guess I understand where they were coming from. Is what it is. And I also want to just make sure I set the record a little bit straight here. I painted a picture of Simon Says that almost sounded like doom and gloom so far. You should understand that there's two sides to that story. One is, let me finish the doom and gloom side because I didn't finish the whole entire story. It was such a horrific thing for us in the band at the time to have that for a hit, because we got disrespected by everyone in the business. Anytime we met another artist, they laughed at us and thought we were a joke. And that basically affected the guys in the band so terribly that by April, the drummer left. In May, the bass player left, all because of the bad hard time we got. In August, the other guitar player left. In September, I left, and it was only Mark left at the end. And I know in my heart that would never have happened had it been a different song that we had for a hit. So that's the story of then. However, you have to be practical and realistic in this world. And I don't regret for 1 second having a million seller that reached #1 in Italy for 6 weeks in October of '68. Did you know that? 6 straight weeks it stood at #1 in Italy.
Wow. That's amazing.
Having a song to sell that many records, a worldwide hit, you know what I mean? I'm extremely proud of it now.
You should
I want to make sure, and I want to make sure my fans know that, you know what I mean? I tell the stories because they're interesting stories, and that's what went down, and that's what happened, and people should know that that's what now. But the song was a good time song, a fun song. A lot of people loved it then. A lot of people love it now. I love it. I'm proud to have been able to be part of the group that recorded it.
That's great.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, really, it could seem like in the 60s, well, just in music in general, there's kind of like two battling sides, because you have, there are songs out there that really don't represent the band, and then they record something, and then oddly enough, it becomes a hit. Whereas maybe something like a B-side, like you were talking about, is really the direction that you really want to go creatively, and maybe there's, maybe a little bit more satisfaction.
I kept telling the guys back in the day, back at that time, just relax. Time will go on. We'll have other hit records, etc. We'll get more in control, and then we'll record what we want to record. Yeah. But my words fell on deaf ears.
Well, Frank, we can say this, and I think our audience will agree, right, Pam, that we're so grateful for the music that you recorded. And I love it. I've known about it since I was a kid.
And you know what? It's happy music. Look at how that music gets you going. You cannot sit still with that music.
That's the big thing about it. It's really happy music.
And you should be very, very proud of all of your accomplishments with the band, and just what a fascinating stories, and we're just so grateful to have you on.
You toured with a lot of groups, didn't you? And one of them I know was the Beach Boys. I love the Beach Boys. Do you have any stories that you could share about some of the groups you toured with?
Sure, with the Beach Boys. I guess my favorite story, and if you ever come to see a live show with us, I tell the same story at every show, and I'm not tired of telling it, and I never will be tired of telling it, because it's something I'm extremely proud of. We did a 10-day tour with them. We played at 6 or 7 different venues. We rode on their bus with them. And when you ride on a tour bus, and sometimes the tour stops are 6, 7, 8 hours of driving apart. And you play one night and you get up in the morning, you get on a bus and you ride for 6 or 7 hours before you get ready and play the next night. Those rides on the bus can be trying, to say the least, can be really tough on you. So you ride down the road and you do what you can. You rest, you try to read, you fall asleep or whatever. And we were in the middle of one such ride. And I don't know what came over me, but I started singing, and I started singing a Beach Boys song. And lo and behold, they all joined in with me and started singing harmony behind me. So that's my favorite memory. That was amazing.
That's sweet.
Of course, at the next rest stop, they put me off the bus. That's my punchline. It isn't true, but it works in the shows.
That's cute. Well, do you have any backstage stories or anything that's give us something meaty here that you can tell?
Unfortunately, I was pretty much a goody two-shoes, and I didn't get involved. I didn't get involved in much of the backstage stuff.
What's the wildest thing that ever happened to you when you're on the road?
I used to get in trouble at the hotels all the time. At one hotel, somebody left an iron on the rug and burned a hole in it. Big deal. Not that crazy.
Not that crazy.
No,
well, how about surprising?
Some of the artists were super nice and fun and great to be around, and it was a joy meeting them, and I'd love to see them again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then there were those that were standoffish, and then there were those that were downright rude. And again, I don't want to start naming names, but they were terrible. One of the artists that was really, really fun to work with was Peter Noon. And we first met him in '68. And I do have a story about him I can share with you. We did the show in '68, and we were all staying at a Holiday Inn. We went down, they had a bar, and we were all at the bar afterwards having a drink or two. And Peter was talking to some fan, I guess, and somehow the subject of the Queen came up, and this particular person didn't like the Queen and said, in no uncertain terms, F the Queen. Well, Peter came out of his gourd, and we had to pull him off the guy.
Wow.
Because British people are proud of the Queen, deservedly so. And after seeing all these shows, The Crown and Victoria and stuff, I'm kind of proud of the Queen myself. I think that she does a wonderful job over there doing the role that she performs. She doesn't run the country, but she certainly does. She's cool, is what it comes down to. So after this incident, we pulled Peter off. We're going up the elevator, and me and another guy in my group, and Peter were in the elevator going up. And the guy next to me was actually our second-tier bass player we had hired after the first bass player left. And he said, "Hey, man," I said, "I really love those boots." And Peter goes, "You do?" Proceeded in the elevator to take off his boots, and he handed them to Bruce, and he said, "Here, they're yours."
Wow.
I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool.
He is a nice guy from what we know. We know of him. We have never talked to him or anything, but we hear lots of good things about Peter.
We did a short tour with Sly and the Family Stone, and they were just experiencing the beginning of their success. Their first hit record, Dance to the Music, had just come out. It was just climbing the charts, and they were added on to open for us. Can you believe Sly and the Family Stone opening for the Fruitgum?
My gosh, where was this? What venue?
This was in the Midwest, in a couple of cities in the Midwest. I can't recall the cities right off the top of my head, but we did 3 shows. And after seeing what kind of a dynamic, awesome act they were, and I quickly came to the conclusion that it was silly for them to open for us. We should be opening for them.
Oh boy!
So third night of the show, I says, "You guys want to close the show?" I says, "You guys are so fantastic. You really should be closing the show." I go, "Sure, no problem." So we came out. We're setting up and get ready for the show, and my amplifier blew up, smoke and everything. And we didn't have any money to carry any spares. We didn't have any room for any spares. So I thought, uh-oh, now what am I going to do? How the heck am I going to play a show without an amp? So Sly's bass player noticed what was happening, and he came over. Hey, man, he says, go ahead and use my amp for the show. So he didn't have to do that, and I thought that was a nice gesture.
That was very nice.
That's
The stories you like to hear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, really, Peter Noon, Herman's Hermits, and Sly and the Family Stone. I mean, to have the opportunity to tour with them and get to know them a little bit and have that experience. I mean, there's really nothing like that. That's pretty amazing.
Another quick story. We flew out to California to film American Bandstand with Dick Clark. First time on a plane, you know. And we're sitting around waiting for our turn to go on, and Dick is going through his part of the show. Yeah, kids, this is going to be number one. Here's our this song, et cetera. This is our top hit for the week, et cetera. And he says, now we'll. And at that time, he was filming. He only had a show that was on once a week on Saturday, and he would film a bunch of them in one day, as much as he could fit in without getting out of sync with the music, because the music changed fast. But it would be 3 or 4 shows. So he was in a hurry. Well, he was in a hurry to make sure that he got what he wanted to get done in the time he had, and he didn't want to waste any time. So we'd finish up. He goes, okay, now we'll have a word from our sponsor. Then he turned around and he went, what are you motherfuckers? Every epithet you could possibly think of came out of his mouth. I mean, you wouldn't know it was because he was mad at his crew because they weren't doing what they were supposed to do.
Oh, did all the kids hear that?
Oh yeah, right in front of the kids. And then he finishes up. He goes, "All right, no. Well, hi, kids. We're back, and we're going to go over the top 10 now for this week. Here's the top."
That's crazy.
But in all fairness, he was a fantastic guy. He was fun to deal with. He treated us, really well, and you know what I mean. He just was in I guess a little bit of a bad mood, and his crew wasn't doing what they were supposed to.
It happens.
He wasn't holding back.
So, Frank, what was your proudest moment professionally and musically?
Tough one. I guess I'm going to have to say the day that we found that we were getting a gold record for Simon Says. I got to bring the gold record into my father's workplace, which is a General Motors plant, and I have a picture of me and him holding the gold record. It was in his company newspaper that they put out. So it was cool to see him excited and proud.
I bet he was so proud of you.
That's fantastic. And the great thing too, Frank, is you and the band are still going, and you're still going strong. And tell us more about the band that you have now, and also what your plans are once things get back to normal. Hopefully, at some point in 2021, bands can go out on the road and just feel better overall about getting out there. Tell us about your plans for 2021 and your in the current version of the band that you have now.
20 years ago, we put the band back together. Mick Mansueto, our front man and our booking agent, and I put the band back together. We also have with us Glenn Lewis on bass, and Glenn has been with me as a duo partner for the past 45, 50 years. On drums, we have Keith Crane for 10 years now, and Eric Lipper is our newest member. He has been with us only for a couple of years. And that's the current band. That's the lineup. That's the 5 of us. So we do have some shows coming up in 2021, of course, with the virus. And we don't know when people are going to want to come out en masse to a show, but we're hoping it's sooner than later. We have one scheduled in February at the State Theater in New Brunswick, New Jersey, with a multi-act show. We have one on July 4th in Springfield, New Jersey. We always play their fireworks celebration. We've done that for 10 years in a row. And then we're going to be back out in Deadwood, South Dakota in later part of August. I'm pretty sure by then that will probably happen. And Deadwood runs a cool Deadwood Nights show where they have acts every night for a couple of nights. We're there on Saturday night. The last time we were there were 16,500 people watching us.
Wow.
And we were the only act. So that was the
Wow.
biggest audience we ever got to perform for. And I'd like to say they all came to see us, but I think that would be stretching it a bit. I think people were coming for a good time, and we were their good time for the night, which is fine. You know, they closed the streets. They put a big stage in the middle of the street. They put a jumbotron way down the other end of the street at the end of the block so people further on can see. So we're looking kind of forward to that. So that's a few things we have coming, and hopefully that, you know, as time progresses, we'll pick up more shows.
Sounds wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
And where can people get in touch with you? Do you have a website?
1910fruitgumcompany.com.
Okay. Are you on social media?
Yeah, we do have a Facebook page, 1910 Fruitgum Company, and we also have another Facebook page, 1910 Fruitgum Company fan page.
Awesome.
So
Terrific. So make sure everybody out there get connected with Frank and the 1910 Fruitgum Company. Sounds like they got some shows scheduled, and you know, hopefully, 2021 we'll see Frank and the band out there rocking and rolling. And Frank, Pam and I were wondering if you wouldn't mind, maybe you have your guitar with you, maybe playing a little bit. Would that be all right? Oh, nice. All right.
Well, I can do one of two things here.
Okay.
I can play you one of my favorite Christmas songs, or I can play you some rendition of some of our hits. What would you prefer?
What do you think, Pam?
I want both. No, I'm just kidding.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to apologize for my voice. I've been having a little issues with it, and I was singing a little bit before we got on, and I was okay. But after talking for this last half an hour, I have a feeling that my voice is going to be not what it should be.
How about your little medley? How would that be?
Yeah, maybe do that.
It doesn't matter which I sing. They'll both be equally as well, or good, or bad, or whatever. Okay. I'd like to play a game that is so much fun, and it's not so very hard to do. The name of the game is Simple Simon Says, and I would like for you to play it too. Put your hands in the air. Simple Simon Says, bring them down by your side. Simon Says, shake them to your left. Simple Simon Says, shake them to your right. Every time I make a move to love you, 1, 2, 3, red light. You stop me when I know I'm right. Don't stop me. 1, 2, 3, red light. Every time I try to prove I love you, 1, 2, 3, red light. Don't stop me when I know I'm right. Don't stop me. 1, 2, 3, red light. I can still remember, wasn't long ago, things you used to tell me. You said I had to know, told me that you love me, and that you always told me that I love you. I thought that was good, when I was down. I knew you would always be there. Oh yeah, oh, me and together, you took me away from me. Voice just died.
Oh, that was
That was
awesome.
awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Frank.
Frank. Bravo.
Oh my
Bravo.
gosh.
That
Woo!
was awesome. Thank
Rock and
you.
roll.
Rock and roll, baby.
What a blast. We are
Frank,
so
that was
lucky.
great. Thanks,
It
buddy.
was our audience got a
Oh.
private concert from Frank. That's awesome. Thank you, Frank.
You guys are really fun to talk to. I want to thank you very much, Pam and Joe. This was a fun experience for me, and I hope that you enjoyed it as well.
We
We
did.
sure did. Absolutely, Frank. Thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure for Pam and I to have you on our show, and we've been big fans of your music for a long time, and so thrilled to have you here with us. Thank you.
Sorry about the voice.
Oh,
no,
that's
no,
okay.
you're good. You
It was
sounded
wonderful.
fine. Sounded fine.
So thanks everybody for tuning in. I know you had a blast here tonight with Frank and Joe. Thanks, Joe. And you want to say something, Joe, before we sign off?
Yes. Okay. I gotta do my spiel here.
I know you do.
Number one, thank you, Frank, and thank you, Pam. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Number two, dickbeyondyourfilm.com. Check it out. Our Dick Beyond Your Film Facebook group and Facebook page. Become a member, like the page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff on there, including this interview with Frank. It will be on the YouTube channel as well. And before I depart, just want to tell everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, happy holidays. And thank you for being with us throughout 2020. And we know it's been a crazy year, but hopefully we've been able to give you some great entertainment, just like the entertainment we got from Frank a few moments ago. This was awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Joe. And goodbye,
All right,
everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.